Sport is about wins and losses. It's an outcome-based activity, and we love to win. In fact, I've yet to meet a person that says, I can't wait to lose today. It just doesn't happen. We build champions to earn championships. A champion is taught to be strong, stoic, relentless, fearless, aggressive. We teach champions to remove emotions and mask their emotions. Our champion athletes are taught what it takes to win and how they should feel and act. You see, but this is where it starts to get confusing in sport, because there's this saying, it's okay to not be okay. Now that would be great if we had an environment that teaches you how to feel and fail, but that's not really how our culture of sport is, or the culture of building champions. And I'm here to re-examine our culture of champions. You see, athletes aren't taught it's okay to not be okay. I first experienced the world of success through competitive sport at the age of 4. I learned what it takes to win, the X's and O's, times, places. I've had the opportunity to live positive and negative aspects within this culture, a culture of champions. My first real experience of living within this culture of champions was at 9 years of age. I was in Louisiana, I was without my parents, I'm with my track and field family, and we're about to compete at the biggest championship of my life. It was the Junior Olympics. And I'm gonna run the 1500. It's just shy under a mile. It was a hot, muggy, swampy kind of day. I couldn't breathe, my heart's racing. But I put on my sweatpants, and I go warm up, and it's like 105 degrees outside. But see, Coach had this rule to always wear your sweatpants when you go warm up. So I do as I told, I wear my sweatpants. I always did what Coach told me to do. I was a kid trying to perform for my parents and coaches, like almost every other 9-year-old I know. So I'm warming up and I'm sweating, and I can't breathe, and my heart's racing, and we're like getting in this corral to go get ready to race, and we're like little cattle kind of like herding our way along. And I just like follow right in line, you know, doing what everyone else is doing. But I'm scared, I'm like frozen. And I just look around thinking, geez, all these kids look real fast. I'm just, you know, getting overwhelmed, everyone's watching me. Then all of a sudden, I get this large hand pressed down on my shoulder, boom. And I just freeze, like, ugh. And I like look up, and I hear, hey, Hill, how you doing? I took a big deep breath. This is my coach. My coach, he coached me for 10 years. I loved him. He was that strong, do as you're told type of coach, a coach building champions. And here I was at 9, at the biggest championship of my life. So I swallow, and I'm like, I'm good, coach. I was not good. But I wasn't about to tell him that I was scared and lost. That would show weakness, and I'd be a failure. So he puts his hand on my back, he says, it's gonna be all right, kid. You got a lot of heart. And he walked away. Got a lot of heart. I don't even know what that means. But I said it over and over again. I didn't realize that moment when I was 9 years old was gonna shape who I was during that race, the rest of my athletic endeavors, who I am as a person. It's the crux of my philosophy of who I am as a mother and a professional, and it's how we re-examine the culture of champions through a culture of care. Now, I didn't know how to care right away, or how caring was really gonna make me a champion in my life. You know, if we fast forward a couple years, that same pattern continued. Do as you're told, don't show emotions, just suck it up and run. Now, I had success. I had won a lot of races, and I had visions of going off and competing at the Division I level. And I was successful in the sense that I had a lot of championships, and I had the medals and the accolades, but winning wasn't fun for me. And my adolescent brain couldn't understand how winning and being a champion wasn't fun. I was completely confused. I mean, I was continuously chasing the next championship. But isn't that what sport and life's all about? Now you may be thinking, gee, Hillary, this sounds terrible. You're being a champion and you're gonna go off and be a Division I track and field athlete? Yeah, real tough. But I promise you, it really was. It was terrible. This culture of championship building is. I didn't know how to feel, and I didn't know how to talk about emotions. I didn't know how to fail. All I knew is how to work hard, be a good athlete, and keep chasing championships. And nobody asked me how I was feeling. They asked me how I was doing. And if they did ask me how I was feeling, I probably would have just told them good. My world had taught me that champions are strong, not weak, and feelings of being lost and scared are not champion qualities. You see, and this is where we fail as parents and coaches, not allowing our athletes to feel their emotions and express them. The adolescent brain is rapidly developing from an emotional framework first, and they're continuously exploring their world and trying to understand their emotions, the emotions of their friends, their parents, family members, other significant adults, oftentimes getting those feelings wrong. And in a stressful environment, the brain is vulnerable to outbursts and emotional breakdowns. And until the adolescent brain develops to more reasoning and judgment with the development of the frontal lobe, our athletes are wandering around, our adolescents are wandering around, navigating these emotions. It is our job as adults to help these adolescents navigate their emotional world. You see, my kids say it best when they explain what I do. They say, "Mama teaches people how to be happy." What a simplistic and powerful statement. And I teach athletes and coaches how to feel their feelings and manage their emotions. But more importantly, I teach them sport is what they do, not who they are. And I hope they learn to love what they do, and it does make them happy. But it's not simple or easy, and I have some numbers to prove the fact. Currently, 1 in 5 adults in the US experience mental illness in a given year. That same stat is true for our adolescents. 1 in 5 13 to 18-year-olds will experience mental illness in a given year. Now, if you're trying to figure out what these numbers look like, let me break it down to you. Let's say you're an executive and you're going to a board meeting, and there's 10 of you that are going to be at that meeting on Monday morning. 2 of those individuals will be struggling with mental illness every board meeting you're at. Now, if that example's not enough, let's give you a sport example. I'm a coach of a basketball team, and I got 15 players on my team. 3 of my players on that roster are experiencing mental illness every practice. It's time to re-examine our culture of sport. We can no longer blame, punish, or shame our adolescents for having emotional outbursts or having difficulty struggling with their athletic endeavors and balancing life. Instead, we should be curious to examine and explore how can we help them express their emotions and help them learn to live within this culture. You see, my job and focus on this is to allow them to learn how to navigate this process. And these athletes want to be champions of their world, and they want to be champions in the athletic domain. But recent studies show that the athlete experiences mental health at a greater risk. This pressure performance environment is causing more psychological symptoms to be present. But only 10 to 15% of our athletes are seeking help with their emotional struggles. But far more struggle at a greater basis. 30% of our athletes report feeling psychological symptoms and overwhelm on a daily basis. And these numbers are only reflecting the athletes' voices that are loud enough to speak out and to seek help. And these voices are starting to get louder, but we need to do a better job listening to them. Not the teammate on the bench who helps the athlete understand and navigate their world to be a good champion, but those of us that can help change this pressure performance environment. We currently romanticize our athletes. Our Olympians and professional athletes we think are superhuman and superheroes. And yes, they do pretty amazing things with their bodies, but we don't allow them to be breakable. This environment makes them be stoic and can be toxic with the bracketed morality. Have you ever really listened to how coaches speak to their athletes? Sometimes, more than often than not, in any other profession, these words would get us fired. I surely would lose my job over this. Why do we think it's okay for a coach to yell in a child's face, or call an adolescent out of their name, or shame them in front of their teammates? I ask you, does this culture really build champions? I hope we listen in response to the noise, and we humble ourselves and see clear in preparation for a spiral. But more importantly, I hope that we take action. My superhero athletes are the ones that speak loud enough to let us know that they're not okay, and we can be a little bit better helping them learn this world. So how I currently examine this process and recreate a culture of champions through a culture of care. Step 1, I create a culture of care through developing psychological safety. I create a culture with my teammates, my coaches, and athletes to help them learn how to strive for success instead of fearing failure. Now, this is not easy, and I do it by being vulnerable with them. I build a relationship with them. I teach them that it's okay to fail and ask for help. We're never asked to do it alone, and they're never expected to do it alone. But more importantly, I ask them, why do you show up every day and grind it out? It's not the what that I care about. We know the what is to win. I want to know the feeling they get from winning, the feeling they get from being a part of that culture, to do what they love. That feeling helps them become a champion, and then we can earn more championships. Step 2 is educating the coaches. Most coaches have no intention to want to harm their athletes. In fact, there's a lot of great coaches that have positive role models for these athletes. But when we look at this aspect, it's the culture of winning and winning at all costs that becomes problematic. More specifically, coaches lack a required education that actually coaches the individual. Coaches want to instill positive youth development and make great life lessons, and sport's a great place to do that. But they learn how to teach the technical, tactical X's and O's of sport. They've never been taught how to coach an individual, how to coach them through caring. I teach them through an integrated mental health model that focuses on life skill development. And these 6 core life skills have been shown to reduce mental illness and increase positive mental wellness. Our 6 life skills are goal setting, coping, communication, time management, leadership, and problem solving. And once our coach learns that, then they can foster an environment of care and work towards the outcome of winning. Step 3, teach them feel your feelings. Emotions are universal. Instead of masking them, we learn how we can use them to facilitate our performance. We all have them. And I teach it literally as it sounds, except we can't really touch happiness. I teach emotional hygiene. And you've probably never heard of that term before because none of you have probably ever taken a course on emotions. But imagine if we started teaching emotions like we do to our physical health. How we start to understand that we have 6 universal emotions that everybody experiences: sadness, anger, happiness, joy, disgust, fear. I allow them to explore their emotions and the emotions of others. And we can all start doing that today. Instead of asking someone when you see them, hey, how you doing? Maybe next time ask them, how are you feeling? But make sure you take a moment to listen. Now, this sounds really great, these steps I'm taking to shift this culture, but I find myself in quite a conundrum. You see, as a sports psychology parent, I'm not sure if I want to put my kids in sport. As a mother, my job is to protect my children, to allow them to be happy and always skipping through life with a smile. I could never imagine putting my children in an environment that could impact their psyche negatively. My heart aches as a mother and a professional when I hear these stories of athletes when they were involved in an activity that was and is supposed to remain fun, impacting them so much. Sport can be a place that teaches positive life skills, social skills, and enjoyment. It's a great venue for that. But it's coming secondary to winning, building champions, and earning championships. And until we shift that culture of sport and a culture of championship building, my hesitation to put these kiddos in sport, I'm not so sure. And this is a difficult challenge, but I'm a competitor, and I'm really up for the task. But I can't do it alone. So I'm asking you, as my teammates, to help me re-examine the culture of champions and develop a culture of care. I currently work with parents and coaches and help them learn to look within to be better. And I don't mean be better at coaching. I mean be better at coaching the person, not focusing on winning. And we can all do better by starting to care about ourselves and care about others, to create an environment where it's okay to feel and fail. A culture of care for our champions. Thank you.